Hello, inner shifters, how you doing? Your host, Sophia here. Okay, let's start real, not make it feel like one of those generic motivational speeches. Let's make it real. Because when it comes to staying motivated, understanding why you're doing something is everything. Without that deep, personal connection to your goal, motivation fades. It becomes effort without meaning, a checklist instead of something that excites you, energizes you, fuels you. Have you ever started something, whether it's a fitness journey, a project, or a big life goal, and felt incredibly pumped at the beginning, only to watch that energy disappear over time? It's not because you're lazy or lack discipline. It's because when motivation isn't anchored in something personal, something emotional, it starts to feel like work instead of purpose. And purpose is what makes motivation stick. I had a friend named Leo who wanted to get healthier. He told me I just need to be more disciplined. But weeks into his new routine, he was already skipping workouts, losing momentum, feeling frustrated. It wasn't discipline he lacked, it was connection. His goal wasn't actually clear to him. He thought he wanted to work out just to get fit, but when he dug deeper, he realized the truth. He wanted to feel stronger for his kids, have more energy to play with them, be the kind of dad who wasn't tired all the time. That was his why. And once he connected with that real reason, motivation wasn't a struggle anymore. It was automatic. Science backs this up too. Studies from the American Psychological Association show that intrinsic motivation, meaning motivation fueled by purpose and personal passion, is far stronger and longer lasting than external motivation, like rewards or pressure. That means motivation isn't just about setting goals, it's about aligning them with what truly matters to you. When something means something to you, when it lights you up inside, you don't need to force yourself, you want to keep going. Think about the times you felt the most driven. It probably wasn't just because of a deadline or because someone told you to do it. It was because there was an emotional pull, a vision you felt deeply connected to, an outcome that mattered on a personal level. And that's what keeps motivation alive. It's not about willpower. It's about meaning. I knew a woman named Sophia who kept quitting creative projects. She loved to paint, loved to write, but could never stick with it. When she finally sat down and thought about why she wanted to create, everything clicked. She wasn't just painting for fun, she was painting because it made her feel free, expressive, alive. It helped her process emotions she couldn't always put into words. And once she connected to that, motivation wasn't about discipline anymore, it was about joy. And here's the thing, your why doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. And it just has to be yours. Maybe you want to get healthier so you feel more confident. Maybe you're working toward a career goal because you want to create something that matters. Maybe you want to learn a new skill because it makes you feel strong, capable, challenged in a good way. Whatever it is, it has to move you. It has to make you feel something. Once you've defined that why, the next step is reinforcing it daily. Because let's be honest, some days you're going to feel tired, distracted, unmotivated. That's just life. But when your motivation is connected to something real, something bigger than the momentary struggle, you don't quit. You find ways to keep moving forward. Remind yourself of your purpose, visualize where you want to be, hold onto the feeling of why this matters. And here, where it gets powerful, when you truly define your why, motivation stops feeling like effort. And it turns into drive. It becomes a natural force pulling you towards something that excites you. That's the difference between struggling to stay motivated and being unstoppable. So if you ever feel like you're losing motivation, pause. Ask yourself, why did I start this? Why does this matter to me? What's the feeling I want from this? Because once you're clear on your answer, motivation isn't something you have to chase, it's something that fuels you automatically. About starting small and building momentum, it in a way that actually feels real. Because when it comes to motivation, the biggest mistake people make is waiting until they feel fully inspired or energized before taking action. But here's the truth: action creates motivation, not the other way around. Think about it like this: you ever have a day where you don't feel like working out, writing, or tackling a big project, but the moment you start, even just a little, it suddenly feels easier? That's not a coincidence. Oh, that's science. Studies from Stanford University confirm that small progress triggers psychological momentum, making it easier to keep going. I had a friend named Jake who wanted to start running but kept putting it off. He convinced himself he needed the perfect conditions: new shoes, a structured plan, a full hour carved out of his schedule. But guess what? That perfect scenario never happened. So one day I told him, forget the plan. Just put on your shoes and run for 5 minutes. He thought it sounded ridiculous. What difference could 5 minutes make? But the moment he started, something clicked. His body adapted, his mind shifted, and instead of stopping at 5 minutes, he kept going. And that's the secret: just starting, even in the smallest way, unlocks momentum. This applies to everything: fitness, work, personal growth. Ever struggled to clean your space, but once you start organizing one drawer, suddenly the entire task feels manageable? That's because action fuels motivation. The hardest part isn't continuing, it's beginning. I knew a woman named Sophia who wanted to write a book but kept procrastinating because she felt overwhelmed by the sheer size of the project. When she finally committed to writing just one paragraph a day, the resistance disappeared. Because small steps feel doable. And once something feels doable, you repeat it. And that builds motivation. And let's talk about how this works neurologically. Research from the Journal of Behavioral Science shows that small achievements trigger dopamine release, meaning when you complete even a tiny step, your brain rewards you with a motivation boost. That's why checking off one task often leads to tackling another. You're literally wiring your brain to crave progress. The takeaway: motivation isn't something you wait for, it's something you create through action. Even the smallest step forward builds momentum, making the next step easier and more natural. So whatever your goal is, start small. Move for 5 minutes. Write a single page. Organize one corner of your space. Take one step toward that dream. Because once you start, you keep going. Can we be creating an inspiring environment, but not just another checklist of things to do? Because motivation isn't just about what's inside your head, it's about the energy around you, the spaces you spend time in, the people you interact with. And when you shape your environment intentionally, motivation stops being something you have to chase, it just flows. Ever noticed how certain places make you feel energized and focused, while others drain you? That's environmental psychology at work. Your surroundings directly impact your mood, focus, and drive. Studies from the Journal of Environmental Psychology show that cluttered, uninspiring spaces increase stress and reduce productivity, while intentional, uplifting environments enhance creativity and motivation. That means your surroundings aren't just background noise, they're actively influencing how motivated you feel. I had a friend, Mia, who struggled with staying consistent in her fitness routine. She thought the issue was willpower, but when she looked closer, she realized her environment wasn't supporting her goals. She worked out in a dim, cramped space with no energy, no music, no vibe that made her want to move. So she changed it. She added motivational quotes, organized her space to feel open, played music that energized her, and suddenly workouts felt natural. Not because she forced herself, but because her environment made her feel excited to show up. And this goes beyond just physical spaces, the people around you matter too. Ever felt drained after talking to someone who constantly complains? Or, on the flip side, fired up after being around someone passionate and driven? That's because energy is contagious. Research from Stanford University confirms that being surrounded by positive, motivated people increases your own motivation, while negativity drains it. That means who you spend time with shapes your mindset and momentum more than you might realize. I knew a guy named Jake who wanted to start a business but kept hesitating. He was surrounded by people who doubted him, who told him his idea wouldn't work, who projected their own fears onto him. But when he started connecting with entrepreneurs, creators, people who believed in taking risks, everything changed. His confidence grew, his motivation ignited, and suddenly starting his business didn't feel like a far-off dream, it felt possible. And even in your personal routine, small shifts make a huge difference. Ever tried working in silence and felt stuck, but the moment you played music or changed locations, your energy lifted? That's environmental momentum, the idea that shifting surroundings, sounds, even lighting can instantly change your drive. So if motivation feels low, take a step back. Look at the space around you. Look at the energy you're surrounded by. Ask yourself, is this helping me or draining me? And if it's draining, change it. Rearrange your space. Add inspiration. Seek out people who uplift you. Create an environment where motivation isn't something you fight for, it's something that naturally exists around you. Because when your surroundings support your goals, motivation stops being an uphill battle, it becomes the energy you live in. An important tip is breaking goals into manageable pieces, in a way that actually makes achieving things feel possible instead of overwhelming. Because one of the biggest reasons people lose motivation isn't lack of effort, it's that the goal feels too big, too far away, too impossible to reach. But when you break it down, suddenly it's doable. Suddenly, motivation isn't about pushing yourself harder, it's about making success feel within reach. I had a friend named Leo who wanted to change careers but kept putting it off. He kept saying, it's too big of a change. I don't even know where to start. And that's the trap a lot of people fall into, seeing the huge picture without realizing that every big achievement is just a series of small, manageable steps. So one day I asked him, instead of thinking about the career change as a whole, what's one tiny action you can take today? Instead of quitting his job overnight, he updated his resume. Then he sent out one application. Then he started networking. And before he knew it, momentum took over. The change that once felt massive suddenly felt natural. Because when you focus on small steps, you stop waiting for motivation, you build it. Science completely backs this up. Studies from the Journal of Motivation Science confirm that breaking large goals into smaller tasks increases completion rates and reduces procrastination, because it removes the mental barrier of feeling overwhelmed. That means the real secret to staying motivated, shrinking the challenge into pieces that feel manageable. I knew a woman named Sophia who wanted to get in shape but felt stuck. She kept thinking she needed the perfect plan, the ideal diet, the flawless workout routine, the discipline to commit fully. But when she realized she didn't have to do it all at once, everything changed. Instead of overhauling everything overnight, she started walking for 10 minutes a day. Then she added strength exercises. Then she focused on one healthy meal at a time. And before she knew it, fitness wasn't something intimidating anymore, it was just part of her routine. Because momentum doesn't happen all at once, it builds step by step. And here's the wild part, your brain loves progress no matter how small. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that tiny accomplishments trigger dopamine, the brain chemical responsible for motivation and reward. That means even the smallest wins, checking off one task, completing one workout, making one healthy choice, literally train your brain to crave more success. So if you ever feel stuck, don't look at the entire mountain you have to climb. Look at the first step. Because once you take it, the second step is easier. And the third, that's where momentum takes over. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to start small, because small steps turn into big success every single time. Remember to celebrate your progress, but let's make it feel real. Because if there's one thing that keeps motivation alive, it's recognizing how far you've come, even when the steps feel small. The problem, most people don't do this enough. They focus so much on the end goal that they forget to acknowledge the wins along the way. And when you don't acknowledge progress, motivation starts to slip. I had a friend named Leo who wanted to lose weight. He worked hard, ate well, exercised consistently, but instead of feeling proud of his efforts, he kept obsessing over how far he still had to go. One day, he told me, "I feel like I'm doing everything right, but it still feels like I'm nowhere near where I want to be." And that's when I asked him, "What's something you can do now that you couldn't do 3 months ago?" He thought for a moment, then said, "I can run without getting winded. My clothes fit better. I feel stronger." Oh, and just like that, his mindset shifted. Because once you recognize progress, even in the smallest way, motivation comes rushing back. Science backs this up. Studies from the Journal of Behavioral Science confirm that recognizing achievements, even tiny ones, increases dopamine, the brain chemical responsible for motivation and reward. That means when you acknowledge any progress, whether it's completing one workout, finishing one chapter of a book, or simply feeling a little stronger than before, you're literally training your brain to crave success. I knew a woman named Sophia who was learning a new language but felt stuck. She kept comparing herself to fluent speakers, convincing herself that she wasn't improving fast enough. But when she stopped focusing on perfection and started celebrating small wins, understanding one more sentence, remembering a new word, feeling a little more comfortable in conversation, everything changed. Her motivation returned because she saw progress instead of ignoring it. And here's the thing, progress isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's not about numbers or big milestones. Sometimes it's about how you feel, how your confidence grows, how something hard starts feeling natural. That shift, that is progress. And the more you recognize it, the more motivation sticks. So if you ever feel like you're not moving fast enough, pause. Ask yourself, what can I do today that I couldn't do before? What small success have I already achieved? Because when you focus on the wins, motivation isn't something you have to chase, it's something that fuels itself. I know keeping things fresh and enjoyable sometimes is hard. Because if there's one thing that keeps motivation alive, it's having fun with what you do. Whether it's fitness, work, learning, or any long-term goal, when things feel stale, motivation slips. But when you make the process exciting, playful, curious, suddenly staying consistent isn't about forcing yourself. It's about actually wanting to show up. I had a friend named Jake who was deep into personal development, reading books, setting goals, doing everything right. But one day, he told me, "I feel like I'm going through the motions instead of actually enjoying the process." And that's when I asked him, what if you stopped thinking about it as something you have to do and started thinking about it as something you get to explore? That simple mindset shift changed everything. He stopped following rigid structures and started trying new ways to grow, experimenting with different learning styles, surrounding himself with people who inspired him, even gamifying his habits. And suddenly, motivation wasn't about discipline anymore, it was about curiosity. Science backs this up completely. Studies from Stanford University show that dopamine, the brain chemical responsible for motivation and reward, increases when tasks feel novel and engaging. That means one of the best ways to stay motivated isn't just working harder. It's keeping things fresh, adding variety, making the process feel dynamic instead of repetitive. I knew a woman named Sophia who loved working out until she did. She stuck to the same routine every day, and instead of feeling stronger, she started feeling bored. But the moment she changed things, trying boxing, experimenting with dance workouts, challenging herself in new ways, her motivation came back instantly. Because motivation doesn't just thrive on discipline, it thrives on excitement, creativity, spontaneity. And novelty doesn't mean reinventing everything. It can be small changes that make a huge difference. Studies from the Journal of Behavioral Science reveal that introducing slight variations to routines, like changing your environment, shifting how you approach a goal, or tweaking small details, boosts motivation dramatically. Ever tried learning something new and noticed how much more engaged you feel compared to repeating the same old methods? That's your brain craving freshness. I had a friend named Leo who wanted to stay motivated with reading, but every time he tried, he struggled to focus. Turns out it wasn't that he disliked learning, it was that the format wasn't exciting to him. The moment he switched to audiobooks, discussed ideas with friends, and explored new genres, motivation flowed effortlessly. And one of my favorite ways to keep motivation alive, gamifying the process. Research from Harvard Business School shows that gamification, like setting fun challenges, tracking progress visually, and creating rewards, enhances motivation by making tasks feel rewarding instead of exhausting. Ever noticed how accomplishing something small, even crossing an item off a checklist, creates instant momentum? That's dopamine reinforcing success. So if motivation ever feels dull, switch things up. Try a new method. Change the environment. Add playfulness to the process. Because when something feels exciting, when it feels like a fun exploration instead of a duty, motivation isn't something you struggle with. It's something that comes naturally. I thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and do all those lovely things you wonderful people do. I'll see you next time.